My name is Tricia Miller, and I live in Alstead, New Hampshire, which is just across the river from Bellows Falls, Vermont. And I've been hooking since the early 80s when I used to be the youngest person in the group. I was living in Connecticut, and on my way to work, I used to pass a little shop that had a sign out that said Fraser's Rug Hooking. And I stopped in one day and came home with a hook, a very tiny pattern, and fell in love with rug hooking. And fortunately, Viverly Powers, who is a well experienced McGowan teacher, was giving classes. So that's how I got started. But that was really a start. I was there for about 3 months before I moved. But I was so inspired by the people that I met and by Viverly that I pursued and dove into the dye pot. And Joan Moshimer had her magazine back then, and I would follow her instructions to the letter of the law and wound up being very successful, especially as a beginner, to be given a roadmap as far as how to hook. And back then, people started out on a 3-cut. And I still do 3 cuts, but I've done everything up to 8. I tried 10, didn't work. So I was on my own quite a bit. So rug schools were important. The Green Mountain Rug School, which used to be in Randolph Center, was a godsend. And also when the Green Mountain Guild had their school in the Round Barn, that was a godsend. And I have to thank both of those schools for introducing me to fellow students who wound up being friends that our paths would never have crossed otherwise. We came from different states, different ages, and several of those relationships are still continuing. And I've also met people who are beginners like Nancy Jewett, and now look where Nancy Jewett is at. I mean, it's just really inspiring to see how people have grown and support one another. This became challenging as far as having support for hooking when I married a soldier, and we were stationed in different parts of our country, one of which was El Paso, Texas. And as you can imagine, there's not a lot of wool in El Paso. But I will say, one of the blessings of it was I was exposed to different cultures. So it was there that I would design things that were being influenced by the Mexican American culture as well as the Native American cultures. That was great fun. It was a way to sort of integrate where I was living with my passion for hooking. After we were there, we were sent to Germany. And at that time, I don't know how it is now, there weren't any hookers where we were in. We were in a part of Bavaria. But once again, it was fun to be in a different culture and to use some of the ideas of their stories and cultures. I did make up a few of my own. And I don't claim to be a artistic designer by training. I did it for fun. And some of the rugs came out that are special to me and might not make sense to anybody else, but bring good memories for me. And then when we returned to the States again, we were in Kentucky, and we were at Fort Knox, and the nearest rug hookers were over by Lexington. So once again, I was pretty much on my own, but I would come back east to do rug schools. And then I started to want to, again, feel really challenged by increasing my abilities with fine shading. Started to work under the tutelage of Nancy Blood and have taken on some fairly challenging pieces, one of which I'm working on right now. You know, I usually try and have one piece that's hard, you know, something that's requiring a lot of attention, a lot of detail, and then just sort of have a kind of easy kind of outline and fill on the side. The other thing I really enjoy is using up stash. You know, at the time, having been on one of the younger people, as older people were giving up their hooking or passing on, I would be funneled stuff. So I take great joy now, as now being one of the older members, to still be using the stuff. I find that gives great satisfaction to be able to say, wow, I was able to put this together with stuff I had. And okay, I may have had to buy a little bit here or dye a little bit there, but it's just a really good feeling. The other thing I do like to do is I dye my own wools, but I am very much a formula follower. And once again, largely because it's what I have is Cushing dyes, I never branched out to the others because I just couldn't justify buying more dyes when I have 3 boxes of Cushing downstairs. So I will probably be passing some on because I could never use them all in my lifetime, as well as wool. I've been a member of the Guild on and off since the 80s and have seen it go through many different phases. And knowing it was a very unique entity back in the 80s. There weren't a lot of groups. There weren't a lot of opportunities to get together with other rug hookers. So attending guild events was a big deal. And then of course the shows were a really big deal and they were exciting and fun. I've been away, I was away a lot, so I was disengaged. But when returned to the area in 2000, I started to re-engage with the guild. At the time, I was still working full time, so that made it a little challenging on some levels, especially as far as having a local group, because I was well aware that Chris McDermott had a wonderful little group down in Brattleboro, which is about a half-hour drive from me. But it was, Tuesday morning, and when you're working, you're not going Tuesday morning down to Brattleboro. But since I retired 3 years ago, I've been a regular active member there. And that's been a wonderful group of encouraging people, helping each other out, giving each other little pieces of this and that when a little piece could do and you don't have to go buy a whole bolt. So rug hooking is very important in my life. Now that COVID is here and spending a lot more time home alone, it gives me something to be able to attend to and focus, because it really is a form of meditation. Also, with some of the friends that I've made through the years, through those schools, some of them have moved away to Florida or someplace else, and it gives us an opening to a conversation to start off, well, how are you doing on your rug? And before you know it, you're talking about God knows what. One special relationship started for me back, oh gosh, I'd probably say it would be 1984. And it was when the Green Mountain Rug School was happening still in Randolph Center. And I was, as I say, I was, on the young side. And there was a much older woman, just about the same age as my own mother, who in conversation just said, I think I'm going to adopt you. And we were pen pals. That was back before internet and you actually wrote letters. And until the day she died, we were pen pals. She was a New Yorker. She lived in Queens. We never had a face-to-face ever again after that rug school. We stayed in touch. Then she moved to Florida to be near her daughter. And then after she passed, I received a lovely note from her daughter thanking me for being a pen pal to her mom in some times that were difficult for her, losing her life in New York and being in a totally different place. So those are the thoughts that warm my heart. Value rug hooking for more than just the hooking, but for the relationships that get established and the bonding that happens and the love that we can share, both in our art as well as individuals.